This is the spring where the water for our house comes from. We have a pump in that little spring shack there. When my parents were first designing the water system, they had a pump back closer to the house. Not quite in the house, but in the valley right before the house. However, that did not generate enough suction, so they had to move the pump out here. The original pump closer to the house was DC, but with the distances involved, about 500 feet, they had to switch to AC to reduce power losses, and they didn't want to put in a massive cable. This is where the water pipe comes into our house. This is a pressure sensor. The reason we have it is that one of the failure points for the pump is that the internal pressure sensor fails, meaning the pump just keeps pumping. We've eliminated that by installing this pressure sensor, which will cut off electricity flow to the pump once the pressure reaches what we want. The pump is the most failure prone part of this system, failing in a way that we can't get around like this approximately an average of every 3 years. It's rather random and doesn't fall continuously, so we always make sure to keep a spare one on hand. In line with the electrics going to the pump, we also have a GFCI outlet which is wired in to provide some electrical protection. Then the water goes through just a sediment filter. This isn't really water treatment, but just to take any little bits of sediment. We don't really have much to begin with, but we have it in there and we occasionally change it. And then we have a pressure tank which gives some buffer so the pump doesn't turn on every time we need water and provides, high pressure water immediately as opposed to having to wait for the pump to start up, which takes a second or two. Then the water just goes on and distributes throughout the rest of the house. This is our hot water tank. It is just a hot water heater that isn't electrically connected. The reason we don't have it electrically connected is that heating anything, and water takes a lot to heat, is very electrically intensive. And on our fairly small electrical system, that would just completely overwhelm our supply of electricity. Instead, we heat the water both with a solar hot water system and with our wood stove. The solar hot water system pumps propylene glycol through solar hot water panels and then runs that through a water heat exchanger downstairs. We have a pipe run through the firebox of our wood stove which heats water. In our old stove, we had a special water heater box that worked a lot better than the pipe, but that water heater box doesn't work in the new stove we got. Both the wood stove and the solar hot water system will be covered in much more detail in the next video. Though our hot water tank is pressurized as part of our water system, neither methods of adding heat are pumped. Both work off a principle of thermosiphon, which is that hot water, because it is less dense in an equal distance, will rise, and the cold water will press down because there's more weight in that area. We've designed the system so the top of both the pipe in the firebox of our wood stove and the heat exchanger have pipes leading to the top of the hot water tank. There's exit pipes from the bottom of the hot water tank down to the bottoms of each of those. The only reason it flows in that direction is because of the thermosiphon and how heat is getting added to the system. The top of the hot water tank has the hottest water, so that is where we pull the exit from to our taps. The bottom is where the cold water from our water system comes into. We generally have pretty hot water during the summer, assuming our solar hot water system is working. And we used to have really nice hot water during the winter when we had the stove going, but with a new system in the stove, we really don't have that great of hot water in the winter. What we will do to take a bath is heat up water on the stove, generally on the wood stove when it's going, and then pour that into the bathtub for hot water during a bath. One of the issues we have with the water system is that once or twice a winter normally, when there's low snow or the wind has blown the snow away from the pump shed and it gets really cold, the water line freezes. When it does freeze, we have to come out and get water, but we also cover that area with snow. And generally, very soon after, within an hour or so, the water unfreezes and we've got running water again. And sometimes the getting water seems pretty pointless when we have a big jug of water and the water's running again. We have a substantial sized garden. To reduce stress on our water system, we do not irrigate it with our water system. Instead, we have a gravity-based irrigation system which takes water out of our stream, and we can use that to irrigate the garden. Though this is the second video I made, due to me feeling that the electrical system is much more integral to how the house functions, it does not mean that the water system is less important. In fact, my mom, who lived in a house she built which had neither running water nor electricity, felt that having no running water was a much bigger issue than not having electricity. If you have any questions about what I talked about in this video, please leave them in the comments and I will try to answer them as best as I can.